Before I started working out, I literally had noodle arms. I didn't have any muscle, but I was also holding a tiny bit of fat in my tricep area. So when I would lift my arm up, you could see the fat dangle down, as if I was an old lady or something. I had the stereotypical skinny fat arms. And for a majority of high school, even in high school, I would always wear a hoodie because I was so self-conscious about how small my arms were and just my body as a whole. And when I mean all the time, I mean all the time. I would literally wear a hoodie when it was 100 degrees out in the summer. And if I felt that it was too hot, I literally wouldn't go outside at all. I would live like a hermit and never leave my house and just play video games all day. So when I first joined the gym, one of the first things I wanted to do was to be able to fill out my sleeves. And believe it or not, I got there pretty quickly. However, not in the way you would think. Not because I was gaining a bunch of muscle or anything, but I was dirty bulking and I gained a lot of fat. So my arms definitely got bigger, but not in the good way. And also what I did, because I really wanted to fill out sleeves of t-shirts, is that I would buy Nike dry fit t-shirts that were much more snug around the sleeves. They weren't like compression shirts or anything like that, but they were definitely pretty tight. And it definitely did make my arms look bigger than they actually were. But eventually, as I grew up, I knew I didn't want to keep buying those same Nike dry fit t-shirts. So I started taking lifting and going to the gym much more serious. And my next goal was to be able to fill out the sleeves of t-shirts from actual muscle and not even being pumped. So fast forward to now, my arms are about 17 inches flexing, but unpumped. Whereas when I started, I never actually measured them, but if I had to guess, they were probably around 11 to 12 inches. So in this video, I'm gonna share with you guys exactly what I did to grow my arms to be big enough to finally fill out sleeves of t-shirts. So before I get into the specific exercises, you need to understand how often I was training my arms. So for the first 5-6 years of me lifting, I did a push-pull leg split, which obviously means that I would hit my triceps at the end of my push workouts and my biceps at the end of my pull workouts. So it came out to hitting each part of my arm about twice a week. So when people think of huge arms, they often think of big biceps. However, what you need to understand is that the tricep takes up 2/3 of the arm. So if you want big arms, I would definitely recommend focusing on your triceps a little bit more than your biceps. So let's start with triceps. The first exercise I would do is usually something that I could load up a decent amount of weight with. In my case, I would always go to some sort of dip variation. Now I'm doing weighted dips, but when I first started, I was doing a lot of machine dips. And I still do machine dips here and there, but I definitely prefer weighted dips. What you need to understand when you're doing a variation of dips is that you need to keep your elbows parallel to the bars or the handles. Because if you flare your elbows out, it's gonna activate your shoulders and your chest much more, which is not what you want if you want to build big arms. So I would do 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps, going to failure on every single working set. The next exercise I would do for triceps is usually some sort of overhead extension to really target the long head of the tricep. I prefer doing standing single arm cable extensions because it would keep a constant tension on the long head of the tricep. I would do 3 sets between 10 and 15 reps, going to failure on each side. So the last exercise I would do for triceps is usually a push down variation. Recently, I've been really liking the straight bar push downs, but I know a lot of people like to use the rope. But for me, I just feel my triceps activate much more when I use the straight bar. So despite this being the last exercise for triceps, I would still try to load up a decent amount of weight just to really exhaust my triceps as much as I can. Again, I would do 3 sets, 10 to 12 reps, going to failure. So now let's move on to biceps. I like starting with a cable curl variation of choice because you can really keep a constant tension on the biceps and get a really good pump. Sometimes I'll do single arm, or sometimes I'll even use the rope attachment for biceps to really focus on the brachialis and the long head of the bicep, which is going to build the thickness of your arm when someone is looking at you from the front. So if I had to pick for the first exercise for bicep, it would be that exercise that I just talked about. Cable curls with the rope attachment, because you can load up a decent amount of weight, and if you really squeeze and stretch, the pump is absolutely phenomenal. I would do 3 sets of about 10 to 12 reps, going to failure as per usual. So my next Backstep exercise is usually actually going to be preacher curls. No specific reason, other than this exercise just makes my biceps burn like no other. You can get a really nice range of motion, and again, keep a constant tension the whole time. And I know you've probably seen a common theme here, but 3 sets, 10 to 12 reps, going to failure. So now for the last exercise for biceps is gonna be a dumbbell variation of choice. So you can either do normal curls or hammer curls. I usually prefer to do hammer curls because again, this is gonna focus on the brachialis and the long head of the bicep, because that's the part of my arm I'm really trying to work on right now, as well as the upper portion of my forearms. And when you're doing bicep curls, don't be afraid to do a couple cheat reps at the end of your set. Get as many reps as you can while controlling the weight, and then don't be afraid to use a little momentum towards the end just to get a few extra reps out. So again, as per usual, I would do about 3 sets, 10 to 12 reps, while going to failure, throwing in a couple cheat reps just to make sure I'm giving every set my maximum effort. So yeah, this is what I did to grow my arms to where they are today, and what I will likely continue to do moving forward to grow my arms further. So I would definitely recommend you give these exercises a try if you're trying to build up your arms. And if you give these exercises a go for yourself, let me know how that goes.